Have you ever pondered that intricate dance of numbers and data that just swirls behind the transactions that we all perform daily? Well, in an era where digital payments are not just a convenience, but a lifeline, the significance of efficiently managing the vast sea of data cannot be overstated. And today, I have the privilege of hosting Aaron Holmes, CEO of Kani Payments, and we're going to attempt to simplify the complexities of transaction, reconciliation, and reporting. And yes, it's not the most rock and roll of subjects, but it is possibly one of the most crucial elements inside of any business. And since its inception in Newcastle, here in the UK, back in 2018, Kani Payments has picked up some pretty big accolades, such as Europe's leading financial services or payment startup, and inclusion in the prestigious programs such as Fintech Power 50 and the MasterCard Start Path Global, not to mention the FIS Fintech Accelerator. But the company's trajectory has been nothing short of remarkable. But I want to learn more about that story, what drives a company to achieve such success, how they're expanding beyond those big accolades in Europe and pushing into North America now, and more importantly, how does it navigate the challenges that come with scaling globally while maintaining the integrity of millions of transactions? Now, before I get today's guests on, it's time for me to mention the sponsors of Tech Talks Daily. And in an era where digital security is non-negotiable, legacy managed file transfer tools, they simply don't cut it now. So that's where Kiteworks comes in, revolutionizing the MFT landscape with unparalleled security credentials, including the much coveted FedRAMP moderate authorization. This isn't just about compliance, though. It's about offering a secure, efficient platform for today's remote workforce. So don't let outdated technology compromise your security. Step into the future of secure managed file transfer. Get started today by going to kiteworks.com. That's kiteworks.com, where security meets sophistication. But now it's time to get today's guests on. So buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way to Newcastle, England, where we're going to learn more about the story behind Kani Payments, dive into the mind of our guests today, and also explore how Kani is not just reacting to the industry needs, but actively shaping the future of financial transactions. So a massive warm welcome to the show, Aaron. Can you tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, firstly, thank you for having me on the show. Yes, my name's Aaron. I'm the CEO and founder of Kani Payments. We are a reporting and reconciliation platform built for companies in the payments ecosystem, and really kind of came about through recognizing a need for a platform that's dedicated to this space. Having done a couple of roles prior with, one was a gift card business called FlexiCard. We had shopping centers that we were operating with globally. So 300 plus shopping centers that we were working with, including places like the Dubai Mall. It's the biggest mall in the world. And then we also, that gift card company built our own processing platform, which was called Global Processing Services, which is now rebranded to Thread. And that processing platform was supporting clients like Revolut and Starling Bank, Monzo, Curve, and about 150 other fintech disruptors. And so I recognized that all those companies had the same problem around reporting and reconciliation for payments companies is very challenging, and wanted to make sure that it was perhaps easier and better managed through a platform like ours.
Well, it's a pleasure to have you join me on the podcast today. Kani Payments first set off my tech spidey sensors when I was reading how you'd been acknowledged in the industry for your innovative reconciliation and reporting platform since it was launched. And I'm curious, how do you see this innovation evolving in the face of this ever-changing financial services landscape, especially with the introduction of AI and so many other fintech technologies out there? How do you see it all evolving at the moment?
I think evolving is probably the right word. That there is a constant, drive of new companies that are coming into the market that have really good ideas for innovative payment products, often lacking the sort of infrastructure that a traditional bank would have. So they have a really good idea for a product that they want to bring to market, but they don't have, a massive finance team. They don't have in-house IT systems that they can rely on, but they have all the same regulatory and legal obligations, all the same reporting and reconciliation obligations, particularly around customers' money. that those bigger banks that they are challenging already have at their disposal. So I think the market is, if we can help organizations that are perhaps a bit smaller, a bit more innovative than the challenger banks or the traditional high street banks to bring their products to market by giving them a really good platform that enables them to handle all their data, I think that's only going to be a good thing. And I do particularly think, going back to that point about evolving, we're particularly seeing the evolution of regulatory oversight. So I suppose one example would be, last year, quite a few of the European regulators wrote, as they call them, Dear CEO letters. So a Dear CEO letter is basically we're writing to the most senior person in this organization to tell them that they need to sort something out. And it's usually the first step before some kind of regulatory intervention. And we've seen quite a few Dear CEO letters last year highlighting deficiencies in things like reconciliation and safeguarding of customer money. So I think, we can certainly see the regulation evolving, see regulators' tendency to intervene in payments firms evolving and getting a bit more serious. And we also see a lot of new market entrants that have great products and want to bring them to market, but need a platform like ours to make that happen.
And we will have people listening all around the world, but our biggest audience is in the US. So I really wanted to highlight with you today as well that Kani Payments was also named Europe's leading financial services or payment startup, and have also been participating in notable programs such as the MasterCard Start Path Global. We had MasterCard on last week, and also the FinTech Accelerator. So I've got to ask you, someone in the heart of this, what do these recognitions mean for you and your company's growth strategy and your standing in the industry as well?
Yeah, I mean, it was really the Payments Association Awards where we were highlighted as Europe's leading financial services or payment startup. The comments that we got back were that, yes, there is a problem around reporting reconciliation for the payment space. I'll be really sort of brutally honest. I think reconciliation reporting is often one of the most boring parts of the whole kind of payments chain, but it's also one of the most necessary. You have to get it right. It's not acceptable for firms to not look after customers' money correctly and know where it is at all times and be able to reconcile the payment channels that they have. So it's absolutely a necessary part of being a payments company or a bank or a fintech. And what we want to do is make it a lot easier and more straightforward for those organizations to run their operations and not worry about this sort of really deep requirement that they have. But yeah, to your point, I mean, we have to say a big thank you to MasterCard and also to FIS. Both organizations have been very supportive. We went through the MasterCard Start Path program and the FIS Accelerator program. We're working very closely with both organizations to develop our product further and to roll it out, particularly in the North American market where there's a huge opportunity. And then just a couple of weeks ago, we were in Atlanta for a number of reasons. We were doing a Run It by the Buyers event where we were talking to many of the processors on the market who are often strategic partners of ours, but we're also looking for office space there. So our plan is to open an office in Atlanta and really kind of expand our North American presence. So great to hear. If you've got a lot of North American listeners, then hopefully Kani will be coming to Atlanta in the near future.
I hope so, indeed. And for anyone interested in what problems you solve and what the value proposition is, ultimately Kani's platform offers this remarkable proposition, and that's turning weeks of transaction reporting and reconciliation work into a task that takes less than 30 seconds. And in a world where, as you said, is often perceived as boring, I think that 30 seconds thing will really get people's attention. But can you spare us maybe a client success story? You don't have to name them. I understand you're going to be locked down there, but anything that would just bring it to life and highlight the transformative impact of your technology on that enterprise space?
Yeah, absolutely. So we have, there are broadly sort of three challenges that we see for companies in the payment space. So the first one is that there is often a significant volume of data that they have to deal with. We might be talking about millions or even billions of transactions that they need to reconcile and report on. Secondly, there is complexity in that data. So, even if you take the, MasterCard and Visa, they often have the same underlying standards that they base their messaging on, but they have their own proprietary report outputs. Similarly, all the processors on the market have their own reporting format. So FAS, TSYS, Marqeta, all three of those processors, for example, that they're typically processing things like ISO 8583 messages, but they output data in their own proprietary format with their own custom fields and metadata involved. And then the third problem that customers have is around knowledge. So even if you have systems that are capable of handling all this transaction data, it's often very difficult to have a team of experts that understand how to best use that data for the reporting reconciliation outcomes that you're looking for. So volume of data, complexity of that data, and knowledge of what to do with it, they're the three things we're trying to solve. If I take a good example, I'm sure they'll be happy to be named on this. So we have a very successful bank that we work with called Kani Payments. They are based in both Gibraltar and Malta. So they have a dual regulatory requirement. So they report to two different countries' regulators. They work with 10 processing platforms. So, FIS and Thread and, Marqeta and a number of others. They also work with more than one card scheme. So they work with both MasterCard and Visa. So they have this problem essentially in spades. They've got massive volume of data, lots of complexity, 10 processing platforms, and also knowledge. So their team wants support from someone who understands the industry to kind of get them over the line on things like reporting, reconciliation outcomes. So yeah, that's really what we're trying to help customers solve. It's probably fair to say that we have real success at two kind of ends of the market. So one is new market entrants that haven't tried to solve this problem yet, and essentially can get to market faster with a product like ours. And then at the other end, when they've been very successful and they've gone through that scaling journey and they've just got an overwhelming volume of data and complexity of data and require more support, that's where, again, we can come in and be very helpful.
And of course, handling the complexities of MasterCard and Visa scheme, QMR and QOC report generation, that is a notable achievement on its own. But I'm curious, I'm sure it wasn't all plain sailing. What kind of technical challenge did you face in creating a platform that's capable of this, meeting all these requirements? And was there any particular obstacles that you've had to overcome doing that?
I think scale is the most obvious one. You're absolutely right that we, if you take the QMR, for example, from personal experience, I used to, for those that are not familiar, the MasterCard QMR is a quarterly report that you need to submit to MasterCard, which advises on things like your payment volume during the quarter, the number of outstanding cards and accounts you have in the quarter, and other metrics. And when I used to work at the previous organizations I was at, I would work from home for 2 weeks before kind of home working was a thing, manually pulling together all that data through, SQL queries and Excel. And it was a big manual task. And in our platform, you log in, you go to the QMR report, you click the button and it generates the report, and it takes about 10 seconds for it to produce the result. So we're talking about 10 seconds versus 2 weeks of manual effort. So that's a significant saving. But in order to get to that 10-second, time frame, we're generally dealing with very large volumes of payments data that has to be reported in the correct way. So I suppose the biggest challenge we've had is around making sure that our platform is highly scalable and able to deal with, billions of records that we process, in a short time frame. The volume of payment records that we have processed has trebled every year for the last 3 years. So our scale is going up very quickly, and we need to make sure that we have got a system that's highly scalable for the next 10 years and beyond, so that organizations, particularly the bigger tier one banks and other organizations that are starting to work with us now, recognize that this is something that can deal with the scale that they have.
And of course, this is something that you can't do all on your own. Collaboration is the key. And another thing that stood out for me was your strategic partnership with Pismo, which also seems to represent a significant milestone for Kani Payments. But how will that alliance bolster your position in the global market? And does that open up any other unique opportunities, not just for yourselves, but for both companies ultimately?
Yeah, I think Pismo is a great example where we're really finding that there are strategic partnerships out there where I know it sounds like a cliche to say it, but the sum of the parts that we can offer when we work together is greater than, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts, when we do partner with organizations like Pismo. I do think that there is a strong strategic fit with Pismo and a couple of other organizations we're working with, because generally clients just want to make best use of the data. So they have all this payments data somewhere in some database or in a variety of databases or a variety of systems, but there are many outputs that they are looking for from that data. So, making sure that customers' money is protected by reconciling to make sure that payment channels agree with one another, making sure that their regulatory reporting is correct. And obviously Pismo have got a strong track record in helping clients achieve that. Yeah. And really partnering with organizations that know how to make best use of the data and get our client organizations to the outcomes they're looking for is entirely valuable. And again, just to highlight, Pismo is a key partner for us. MasterCard, we've been working with very closely. We think that MasterCard have got a lot to offer, from a partnership perspective, and are really kind of helping us drive our, product development in the right direction to serve MasterCard customer needs. And then again, FIS have been a really good partner. The accelerator program that we went through was really significant for us. And we've got a transformational, opportunity ahead of us to work with FIS on, rolling out our product to their customers.
So ultimately, your platform promises significant time and cost savings for your clients, including some stats that I pulled off while I was before you came on the podcast today, including $500,000 savings in IT building costs and 200 hours per week of manual effort, which is just phenomenal. But if we were to take a look under the hood, I'm an ex-IT guy, so I'm always curious for anyone listening that are sold on your value proposition right now. They're going to go into the office right now. So I've heard a great podcast, and the IT director is going to bombard them with questions. So can you elaborate on some of the technology and algorithms that enable these efficiencies we're talking about today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, we spent a significant amount of our time building a platform that's highly scalable. There's a part of the platform that we call Autodata, and that allows us to bring in data from new organizations in the payments ecosystem without having to do an IT build project to then integrate with that data source. So what Autodata allows us to do is take a data file that we haven't seen before, throw it at the system, and very quickly come up with an automated way of bringing that data into the platform that's then sense checked by a human in order to make sure that it's correct. And then that allows us to ingest the data very quickly. So that's in contrast to the way that this has been done historically, which is organizations will typically have reporting reconciliation solutions in-house. That typically involves, if they're going to build that platform, typically involves having, a project manager, a team of developers, business analysts, lots of other people building against a specification. And then once that system is built, which is often a significant effort in and of itself, you then have to maintain that platform for the foreseeable future. So, every time that a processor changes its reporting output, or MasterCard or Visa or Discover Network come up with a new reporting requirement, for example, you then have to change your system to accommodate that new requirement. So it's an ongoing cost for that organization in the traditional way of doing things. What we're bringing is a highly scalable cloud-based solution where we do all of the heavy lifting. So for example, if MasterCard require a new report, we will build that new report, and then it's available to all of our existing clients at no further cost. So it's a really cost efficient and scalable way to do your reporting reconciliation outcomes and to stay compliant. And then in terms of, I think you mentioned things like algorithms, and we've done quite a lot of work on testing various different sort of machine learning type capabilities. We actually find that for the vast majority of cases, particularly in financial transactions, rules-based solutions are actually very good. They tend to be able to clear out a lot of the, when you're doing record matching, they can clear out a lot of the obvious matches. And then what you're left with is the small proportion typically of unmatched things or mismatched things. And then you can start doing things like applying some really good mathematical algorithms out there. The Fleggy-Sunter, for example, is a mathematical algorithm that's very well established in this space. For doing record matching between two different data sources, but we're also experimenting with things like machine learning, generative AI for for asking questions around the data. And there's a significant roadmap ahead of us to enhance the product further than where we are today. But it's really exciting times, I think, especially with some of the AI stuff that's coming out at the moment.
And we've also we've already talked about handling the complexities of MasterCard and Visa scheme, QMR and the QOC report generation, huge achievement there. But expanding on that, given the stringent requirements for things like data security and compliance across the financials sector, how do you at Kani ensure that your platform and your services remain right at the forefront of the regulatory adherence and data protection, in particular the ISO 27001 certification. Again, we're drifting into that boring side of things, but compliance and protection, it's possibly the most important, isn't it?
It is absolutely. I mean, I should probably say I started my career out in a compliance role, and there's a secret compliance manager in me that really likes this stuff. So, but yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, when we're handling these really significant volumes of data, the security of that data is obviously incredibly important. So we are ISO 27001 compliant, and that's an information management security system that we employ to make sure that we are handling data correctly and in a secure way. We also use technology, so we partner with Snowflake. Was one of our core database technologies. Snowflake have got some really exceptional security features, and they also allow us to geolocate data in particular regions. So a good example would be if we were working with a North American bank, we would geolocate the data in the North American region, even in a data center that is that can be specified. So that allows us to keep on top of things like the data sovereignty rules that certain countries have. Similarly, we work with some banks in Australia, so we geolocate their data in Australia for them. And then over and above that, obviously SOC 2 compliance is particularly important for the North American market. We actually de-scope the vast majority of PCI DSS related data from our platform, because it's typically not necessary for reconciliation purposes. So we don't really need to know the card number, for example, when we're doing reconciliation. We would far rather have that obfuscated or tokenized in some way. So we basically employ a range of different security approaches, through certification to standards, sensible measures like geolocating data and encrypting it at rest and so on. And then thirdly, we also de-scope the vast majority of data that we can, where it's not necessary for us to hold data that would otherwise pose a risk to an organization.
And I appreciate you're probably locked down as to how much you can share, but if we were to look ahead, are there any teasers you can leave us with on the next big steps for Kani Payments in terms of things like technology development, market expansion, partnerships, or any upcoming innovations or strategic moves that particularly excite you?
Yeah, I think probably two that are most of interest. One that I can talk about very freely, and one that I have to be cautious about what I say at this stage. But I suppose the two are that we are looking for, and I think we have found an office in Atlanta. We have a significant amount of interest from North American companies, particularly some of the processors on the market, to deploy our solution there. And then the second part of it is that we have just signed a major agreement with one of the card networks. We are working very closely with the card network to roll our product out initially in some selected markets, and then the longer term is the plan for that to be a global push. But we see both of those things as being likely to be transformative for Kani. Being a bootstrap business up to this point, we've got some very strong investors who I've worked with at two previous companies that have built and exited fintech companies at a significant scale. But we're really looking to kind of scale up very rapidly over the next couple of years, having proven that the product market fit through a combination of investment, expansion into the North American market, and that strategic partnership with a card network, which we think will be transformative for us.
And you've been on a phenomenal journey over the last few years, and it's been great to hear how all that has come together. But of course, none of us are able to achieve any degree of success without a little help along the way. So, as the old Steve Jobs quote goes, if you can't join up the dots looking forward, it's only when you look back. So if you look back at your career, is there anyone or anything that particularly stood out? Maybe someone that invested a bit of time in you, saw something in you that you're grateful towards, that helped you get you where you are? Who would that person be? We'll give him a little shout out today.
Well, there's probably two people I would highlight. This is going back to the days of sort of 2005, 2006, when I was working at a small local building society in the northeast of England that got merged with or acquired by a bigger building society. Building society that we moved to was a 1,500 person organization. And there were a couple of people that really stood out there. So the first one is a guy called Colin Greaves, who is the operations director there. I don't know if you've ever come across, there's a management technique called management by walking about, which is basically where you wander around and you get involved and have conversations with people and understand what the what's going on with teams. And I have to say, Colin Greaves, apart from being a very smart and very, friendly guy, he was absolutely the person that I would, I would want to be more like as I kind of progressed in my career. He was superb at walking around. Bear in mind, we're talking about 1,500 people in the organization, and he would know everybody's names, and he would spend time talking to various different teams, and you'd understand what their pain points were and, operational grumbles that they had and things that could be improved. He acted on them, and he generally carried the respect of everybody in the organization, did just a really good job of being in my opinion, a really exceptional operations director. And Colin had put me into a department with Dan Clapperson. I have to say, I think Dan is a superb career role model. I was very lucky in the last couple of years. We managed to persuade Dan to come and join us at Kani. So I worked on Dan's team back in the sort of 2006 days. Dan had built the Newcastle Building Society card solutions team and into being one of the biggest prepaid card issuers in Europe by the time that he left. And it's really down to his, I think, entrepreneurial drive to make that department a success. But also the fact he taught me a lot about, doing the right thing and getting the tasks over the line in a very efficient way. He's just I'll call him an Uber doer. He just gets things done. So Dan is now our Chief Operating Officer at Kani. I really respect him and appreciate the time that he gave to help me develop my career in the early days. And the pair of us used to work very closely with Colin Greaves at the Building Society as well, who's, and I think forever will be someone that I aspire to be like.
What a great answer. Quick shout out to both Colin and Dan. Hopefully they will get to hear this message. And I think it's so important because both Dan and Colin are probably blissfully unaware on the impact that they've had on you. When you talk about Colin there, knowing everyone's name, listening to people's problems, acting on them. To him, he's just doing his thing and sticking true to who he is, but he's actually inspiring you to do the same. And equally, Dan, with that Uber doer attitude and that strong work ethic that rubs off on you. So important that we mention this. So big shout out to both of those. And for anyone listening, just wanting to dig a little bit deeper on Kani Payments there, find out more information, maybe contact you or your team, especially anyone in North America excited by that global push that you've got at the moment. Where would you like to point everyone?
Yeah, I mean, the best place is to go to our website. So it's Kani Payments, so Kani, and then Payments, Payments, .com. So kanipayments.com. There's a lot of information on our website. We just hired a really good head of content, Matt, who is writing some blog posts at the moment. So hopefully by the time people visit the website, we'll get some really good blog posts up from Matt. But yeah, you can also find us on Twitter and on LinkedIn.
Awesome. Well, I will add links to all of those places. And I always say at the end of every episode, technology works best when it brings people together and ultimately solves real problems. I love what you're doing here with that simple task of reducing complexity for financial services businesses. You're doing just that. You've had tremendous success in the UK, and I wish you the best of luck as you push into North America. But just thank you for sharing that story with me today.
No, thank you. I really appreciate the time. Great to talk to you.
Having listened to today's guest there, I think it's clear that the journey of transforming financial transaction management is both complex as it is compelling. But Kani's innovative approach not only addresses the pain points of reconciliation and reporting, but it also stands as a testament to the power of their vision, their expertise, not to mention that strategic partnerships that they're building there in navigating the digital financial landscape. And also, it's worth highlighting the strategic alliance with Pismo and the expansion into markets like North America. These all underscore Kani Payments' ambition and its potential to redefine efficiency and security across financial services all around the world. And Aaron's journey there, from learning invaluable lessons in compliance roles to spearheading Kani's mission, reflects for me a blend of leadership, innovation, and relentless pursuit of excellence. But as we wrap up today's episode, I invite you to reflect on the impact of such innovations on our daily financial transactions and indeed broader financial ecosystems. How do you see the evolution of financial technology shaping our interaction with money, business and each other? And do you have somebody like Dan and Colin that has meant the world to you in your career that you'd like to give a little shout out to? Or do you have any questions, or you want to come and join me on the show? Whatever it is, I'm the easiest guy in the world to find. techblogwriter@outlook.com on the email. If you're going to get me on social, Twitter, LinkedIn, Instagram, just at Neil C. Hughes. Fire over a quick DM, as long as it's not a blatant sales page. Just to get you past that obstacle, just say, hey, Neil, I listened to the podcast and I will respond straight away, because I do meaningfully want to connect with each and every one of you. So remember, the conversation doesn't stop here. It's just the beginning. Join me again tomorrow on Tech Talks Daily, where once again, we will unravel the complexities of technology and its profound impact on our lives and businesses. And as I walk off into a virtual sunset, what is the next innovation that will transform our financial transactions? That's what I'm going to be thinking about. But let's continue this dialogue. And we can do that bright and early tomorrow. So thank you for listening as always, and until next time. Don't be a stranger.